We often talk about ways to get the most out of an early start to the parks, but what about late starts? That's going to be today's topic. This is episode number 45. I'm Soraya.
I'm Aurora.
And together we're just your average Disney travelers. Okay, to start, a couple of weeks ago, we mentioned the possibility, or we brought up the idea of possibly going to audio only for our podcast. And we asked for feedback. We did get some. I had some people contact me, and everyone that I talked to said that it did not matter to them if it was audio only. And so we're going to give that a try. Rory, how do you feel about that?
It's a lot less stressful.
So Aurora's happy about that. I think there's pros and cons, but I do acknowledge that in a lot of ways it's a lot easier. For instance, I can wear pajamas now if I want.
You could have already, just halfway.
Like waist down.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, for the record, I'm not wearing my pajamas now, but no promises next time. Maybe I'll just go casual. All right. So another thing I want to mention is poor Aurora is dealing with a cold. So
Yay.
Yeah, that's how she feels about it. And so you're going to hear that in her voice.
Oh yeah.
A little bit congested.
Woo.
Yeah, hopefully you don't have a coughing fit or sneezing fit while we're doing this.
Oh, that'd be awful.
Yeah. All right. So we'll probably keep this one short for that. All right. So wanted to talk about late starts, and we've actually between us been talking about doing this topic for a while, ever since our last visit to Disneyland in July. We did late starts that trip.
Oh yeah.
And that was really the first time we did that for as long as I can remember, really. I don't think I don't know that we've never done like every day late start. Every now and then you have a late start for a variety of reasons, but
yeah.
So anyways, so we did that last time. It worked really well for us. It would fit our needs. And so we wanted to talk about late starts this time. So first of all, why might we need late starts? Do you want to start?
Sure. Some of you, like me, like to stay up late and hate waking up early.
Yeah. So you might be a night out or just simply like sleeping in, whatever reason you want to sleep in and you're definitely not an early bird.
Nope.
Not interested in catching that worm.
Nope.
All right. And it could be like that's your typical personality or preference, or it could be like situational, like maybe you were up late the night before, either getting into the area to arrive, or it could be that you were closing out a park the night before. But for whatever reason, sure, yeah, late nights and early mornings don't mix.
Nope.
Okay, so another reason could be that you're meeting up with a group that's running behind themselves, or for whatever reason can't get there at the start of the day. So that would be a reason to have a late start. What other ideas do you have?
Maybe you have a breakfast reservation.
Yeah. And even if it's a breakfast reservation in the parks, that you're in the park by the time that you'd say the park is opening, you might not be available to be out there riding rides and going to attractions. And so your start would be later. And so definitely that could qualify. And it could be your arrival day. It could be that you just are getting there that day and you're there in enough time to go to the parks, but not at opening. And I guess part of that, we didn't talk about what is the definition of a late start. Do you, what would you define as a late start?
Not being woken up by an alarm, whether it's a person or a physical alarm. You just wake up naturally. Okay. And it has to be probably at least an hour after opening.
Okay, so a late start is at least an hour after opening. Okay, yeah. And I agree with that, because I mean, a late start could be as late as in the afternoon, is a late start. And we've done that too, where you get there closer to noon or later. But a late start also, the opposite of late start is, you're opening the park, and we call that rope drop. And rope drop is being there actually not just when the park opens, but a little bit before park opens, so that the point when the park opens, you're already right there because they usually will let you in before the park opens, but they usually will hold you like near the hub or someplace before you can actually go off and experience the attractions until the actual park opening. And so that's rope drop. That's starting when the park opens. But really for that first little bit afterwards, it's I would say, you know, maybe not an early start, but I wouldn't say it's a late start until you get to at least an hour after.
Yeah.
Maybe late morning or yeah. Okay. So what are some of the benefits of doing a late start instead of getting there at rope drop?
You gotta sleep in.
That's your
Woo!
favorite benefit.
Yeah.
And it's not just that you're a teenager, but I'm sure that helps. I'm sure
I
it
mean, I have to
contributes.
kind of wake up at like 6 o'clock every morning.
So when you're on vacation, you're not looking to keep having an early
Oh
wake
no,
up.
I hate waking up early.
Even for Disney,
Mm-hmm.
you'll do it, but you'd rather.
I always have.
Yeah.
You know this. You had to like drag me out of bed every single time.
Once we get going, you're fine.
Well, yeah, but it's just the waking up that's just like, but you could be sleeping in.
And for some people that's important.
Staying in bed.
Yeah. And then there's some people like me who can't sleep in. Like I usually I'm awake and it's my natural alarm clock. And if I wake up, it's hard to get back to sleep. And so
well,
if I'm
you don't
up, I
have to
might
be
as well go.
asleep. You can just lay in
Yeah,
bed.
but if I'm at Disney and like at a hotel at Disneyland or Disney World and I am awake and I know I'm going into parks that day, it's like, why wait?
That's true.
Why sit in a hotel room?
That's true.
And so, but like
I'd be the same if it was me
If you
waking
were
up
waking up,
unnaturally and not being woken up.
So I need to be more subtle in how I wake you up. So you think you've woken up naturally. Okay, all right. We digress.
That's
Okay,
how that works.
so one of the benefits is definitely sleeping in for sure. Okay, and I will admit that also one of the benefits of a late start would be that you, in general, are more relaxed and taking your time. You're not rushed. There's maybe less stress involved because you're not trying to get there at the earliest possible minute. You've already accepted that you were getting there at a later time, so you can take your time and just kind of enjoy that a little bit more and not feel as rushed. So that is definitely a benefit. What's another benefit?
The security line is shorter, and the more later you get there, typically the security line will be even shorter.
Yeah, throughout the day it gets shorter and shorter. Definitely the very longest you're going to see it is going to be when the park opens.
Oh yeah.
Just like a bit before that, so a good half hour to an hour before that even, and then for that little bit right when it's around park opening. By the time it gets to be about an hour after the park opens, that's when it starts to die down.
Yeah. But then like once it's one, you're able to cross over. So kind of go up slightly, but not by much.
Well, once you're in, like the security line wouldn't factor then so much, but you're right, the gates.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm thinking gates.
Yeah, right at 1 o'clock you might see right now because that's when you can hop at Disneyland. I believe at Disney World, I believe it's still 2 o'clock, but so you might see a little bit.
You still have like
because not everybody's going right at the same time. Even people who plan to hop that day are not all going immediately at 1 o'clock. So yeah,
whenever we've hopped, it was still
yeah. Well, we didn't always hop right at 1 either.
Nope.
So yeah,
we hopped a lot actually.
Yeah.
One day we just literally went back and forth.
Yeah, we put a lot of steps on that day.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so for whatever reason, if you're going to be getting there a little bit later, what are some tips on, because your strategy is going to be maybe a little bit different than if you're, or it really maybe what your goal might be, or you just the way you approach the day is probably going to be a little bit different when you're going there late start. So what would be a tip that you would give?
Well, if you want to get a virtual boarding pass, you will still have to wake up early if you want to try to get the one at 7 o'clock.
Yeah.
So you have to set up an alarm to get that, and then
so you do still need, or at least somebody in your group, and hopefully, preferably at least a couple of people trying for it. So if it's important to get that early one, you could just wait until the one at noon, or in Disney World, it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
But if you're really trying to get that first one.
And then if you're lucky and don't get group 13 or lower, or anything else that's lower, in general, then you can go back to sleep.
Yeah, that was our goal. It worked for
Yeah.
us one day. One day we actually got a boarding pass that was late enough we could do that. But
Yeah.
man, yeah, if when you do those virtual boarding passes, you don't really have control over what number you get. And so if you get one, which is great, it could be earlier or it could be later.
Yeah.
If it's earlier, you don't really have an option. You kind of have to get in there during your window. And if it's one of the first windows that opens up, that means you have about an hour to get
And
there.
if it's later, you gotta hope that you get scanned before noon.
That's yeah. If you're trying for a second one.
Yeah, if you're trying for a second one.
Yeah. So keep that in mind. It may not still work out. You might still have to get up and get going as soon as you get that boarding pass. That's what happened to us one of the days. But if you do get a later boarding pass, then just go ahead and go back to sleep for a bit. But my next tip on that would be to keep an eye on the expected, the wait times to go back for that boarding pass, your boarding time. They give you a projected, like an estimated time, but that is just an estimate. It's not a guarantee. And sometimes that time is off in one direction or the other. We've seen it in both. So sometimes they end up boarding quicker and faster, and you end up getting to ride earlier. In fact, that was usually the case. But then once in a while, they're having troubles with that ride and it's kind of being slower. And so you might end up being later. So it could go both ways. We saw it go earlier than expected most of the time. So just because it says, oh, your expected return time is going to be in 2 hours, that may not be the case. So keep an eye on it. Maybe you do still have to kind of set an alarm for an hour later to check on it before, assuming. So that would be my next tip. What's another tip for you?
Use lightning lanes.
Yeah, if those are available, when those come available, if you're doing late starts, it's probably worth the investment.
Yeah.
Pay for the Genie Plus and maybe even those individual attraction passes.
Yep.
Yeah, because those standby lines do get longer as the day goes on. And if you're not getting there right at the beginning, you're missing the opportunity to get short ones right away. Okay, that's a good tip. Also, you can use, if they're available, show and parade times. Instead of watching shows and parades, use that time to enjoy the shorter lines. The standby lines usually go down a little bit during that time because everyone's gathering for those shows and parades. Hopefully they're back soon.
Yeah.
So when they come back, use that time. What's another tip?
Use dining packages for night shows.
Yeah, so if you're going to watch the night shows, which honestly for me, those are my favorite. So I like to watch those. Then usually they offer dining packages, and the dining packages are basically, there's certain restaurants that offer them, and you go and you pay for your meal, but it includes, I guess we used to call them fast passes, and now that would be kind of like lightning lane passes to ride or watch that at a show, and usually from a preferred viewing or some sort of preferred viewing. But the whole point is you don't have to wait in line and save your spot for a long time like you normally would. And so it gives you a little bit more time to enjoy the attractions before that show. So I would certainly recommend that. And plus it gives you a nice advantage to watch from usually. It just tends to, and those areas tend to be less crowded as well. So you're not as squished between everybody. Okay, did you say that one or me?
I said that one.
You said that one. Okay. Another tip would be to plan to stay until park closes. And when you're doing that, the big tip would be to get in line for an attraction just right before the park closes, like a minute or so before they close, because they will, if you're in line when the park closes, you will still get to ride the ride. So really kind of just push it to the max, keep going until it's done and it's closed, and you'll ride the attraction that you're in line for. And then you'll have made as much of the time, best of the time as you got. But yeah, I don't always stay till park close, but I guess that's why I'm a park opener. Sometimes we stay, it depends on how late it is when the park closes. Honestly, at park close, if they're open late, that's a good time to be there anyways. The lines do start to die down because people like me that don't want to stay up late, or people who are taking their kids back because it's just starting to get too late for their kids. It kind of, just gets to be where the lines go back down a little bit at that time. So that's a good time to stay anyway. So definitely if you're doing a late start, plan to close the park. Okay, any others?
Shop on Main Street because after the park closes, because it stays open for most of the shops on Main Street at least.
Yeah, I think
Will
they
stay-
all do.
Yeah, they will stay open about an hour after the parks close.
Yeah, shops throughout the rest of the park don't necessarily stay open past the park close, but that Main Street area, those shops do. So don't shop during the day, especially if you're doing a late start. Take advantage. Don't waste your time doing that when you could do it later after the park closes. Save your time and use it that way. Use during the day to ride rides. You probably heard that. That was our cat. Pitiful, mournful cry. Any other tips that you have?
I don't think so. Don't sleep in till 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
So sleep in, but don't sleep in too much.
Yeah. Make sure you still have time to actually be able to do stuff in the parks.
Make it worth your while. You paid for the ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely probably still want to have a plan. I think it's a good idea to talk ahead of time with your group about what the plan is and make sure everyone's on the same page. And so you're still probably going to be setting some alarms and having some plan and schedule, but it will definitely be more relaxed if you choose to do the late starts. I don't think that this is going to be a surprise to anyone, but Aurora, what's your preference to
Late start?
Late start. Always late start.
Yeah.
Are there any times where you would rather, like you would be willing to go in or anything, or is it just
Only
always?
for a ride that like we aren't going to be able to really get onto without having like an hour plus line,
Mhm.
and that you won't get like the
So a
stuff,
high
right?
demand
Like
ride, a high
yeah.
demand ride, if we're not paying to get the
right, yeah, yeah.
access, then you'd be willing to rope drop that, but you don't want to make that the norm.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you're getting old enough to be able to kind of have your own schedule, because man, I am not going to always be willing to do late starts. I like to, my body just wakes up early and might as well.
I don't understand.
You probably, this might be the teenager in you talking though, the kid in you. You might eventually get to the point
I am
where-
a teenager.
No, that's what I'm saying. That
Like
when
a
you,
teenager, me. I am one.
I realize that when you're not a teenager anymore, maybe when you're a little older and you have grown a bit and your schedule's changed a bit, you might find that your habits change. But it's not always. Some people are definitely, I know plenty of adults that are also not morning people. So who knows?
Mm-hmm.
We're so compatible in traveling to Disney, except for maybe this one area.
And even then, we're so compatible because we're both very easily like compromised.
That's true. We usually are
Is that a
pretty easy.
word?
Yeah. And I will admit that the last time we
Yeah.
did do late starts every day, and that was the right thing for me as well as you. So I will admit that. I just hope that it's not always the right thing for me. I'd really love to go back to some early starts. I like taking advantage of that quiet morning hour. But okay. All right. Well, this may hopefully have been helpful if you plan to do any, or even if you don't plan to, if you just find yourself in a situation where you're doing a late start. Like I said, most of the time, I think in the past when we've done late starts, it's because our arrival has been that day. And
Yeah.
we've gotten there like by lunch or so, and then we go in. But you know, occasionally, like this last time when I was just beat and run down and sore and tired every day, late starts were very appealing to me then. So
Oh yeah.
yeah. Okay. Any other things to add?
I don't think so.
Okay. We're gonna let Aurora get back to resting her cold
Being a
and
couch potato.
couch potato with a bunch of Kleenex and cold medicine and
Yep. A bunch of blankets.
lots of blankets. Yeah. Anyways, so thanks for tuning in. Like I said, hopefully this is helpful for those of you who will be doing some late starts here in the future, and we will chat with you next week.
See you.